can't buy. This is a past president of the PTA pin. Only get this after you've been a PTA president for a year. And in my case, it was quite a year. We're going back to, I'll go even further back, okay? I'll go back to 1955 and Camp Wildwood and a cabin that I lived in. And then I got called off to various universities and returned here in 61, 62. I stayed with Bobby Driscoll, an actor, and like a ping pong ball, I went from Northern California to Southern California. And when the children started coming, I mean, I had no idea. I thought we were wrestling. And so you have a young family, and you can travel with them, but the moment when they start to school is very special, because then the kind of feeling that I grew up in a small town in the same house for 17 years. And that neighborhood, that quality of community is really special. And also the start for education. I'm like I don't know how many generations of educators. And our children, the first girl, Nolota, came here, and there was a wonderful kindergarten teacher named Jane Carey. And she instilled a love of learning so beautifully in these little 5-year-olds. She had apple cheeks. She was like something out of a Hans Christian Andersen fairy tale. And the custodian, I believe his name was Chuck, would build, pardon? Yes, would build these wonderful spaceships for the kids to get in. And so my other daughter, Lily, 3 years later, came and started her education here at Topanga Elementary School with Jane Carey. And both of those girls are now teachers. And I wonder how many teachers came out of Topanga Elementary School. As we talk tonight, I keep hearing it over and over. Nolota's in Anaheim at a convention of Head Start teachers as we speak tonight. I was asked by Ami, how did I come to be a PTA president? Well, there's what they call the Arts and Crafts Fair. And I was asked to contribute something, and I decided I would be a strolling troubadour. And I came with my garden hose, and I walked around during the festival playing my garden hose. And in this culture, if you blow your own horn, or in my case, your own hose, the next year they make you president. So I'm the PTA president. Now you have to realize that this is not the time we're in this evening. This is a time of upheaval. And I have just started looking at home movies, all these 100-foot reels from the 60s up here of the Halloween festival on the grounds, and they're very terribly shot because I did them. But I am now going to edit through all of those. And there were times when this community was kind of split apart. And I was one of the bridge builders. My kids, I was invited to do something at the Strawberry Festival, and my kids said, oh, it's just dry and hot and dusty, nothing for kids to do. So I built what I called Dunk-a-Luck. It was I put up a big American flag, which the Republican women from the post office came and said, you can't have a booth where you throw balls at the flag. And what I had was a TV set, and if the ball went through the TV set, these are little like billiard balls, it would hit the mechanism, and I was up above a big tank of water, and I would go in the drain. And so I did this for 2 days. I was never more exhausted. And the first day, the Republican women came out at the end of the day and said, "That's desecrating the flag." And I chased them. I said, "You look at the happy faces on all these children." There was one girl, a little blonde girl, I don't know if she was in one of the slides or not, but she came up, she didn't even throw the ball. She just looked at the mechanism and triggered it off, and I went in. As a Boy Scout from the Palisades, there was 3 balls for a dime. And, you know, he's got his 3 balls, he throws the one and knocks me, and he's standing with the other 2 balls waiting for me to get back up. It was always educational here. There was a movement at one point to have separate drinking fountains for the children of long hairs. And so I have the long hair, I have the beard. I go off to the PTA presidency, the convention, okay, in San Francisco. So it's myself and 3,000 other PTA ladies. We belong to the one that goes to Woodland Hills. That was the group, you know, that we went for. And what you do is you give a report back to your local when you come back from the convention. Well, all these stereotypes, you know, the PTA, I get up there and they are talking about sending a letter to Richard Nixon saying the Vietnam War is unhealthy for our children, let alone the Vietnamese children. They're debating whether to have a statewide office that would fight against sexism and racism. Was this proper PTA business? This is the debate going on in the convention. They stop it in order to have part of the program, which was the Longfellow Elementary School Jazz Band from Berkeley. Comes over, and here's like 40 kids, every color of skin and hair and gender, and they're all making music together. And all 3,000 of us PTA ladies wept at this graphic demonstration of what they were talking about. And I taped the whole convention, so then you come back to your local, and I said, this was the PTA convention, and I put on the music, and this beautiful jazz band is playing. And I think that's what I experienced here, that there was this jazz band called Topanga Elementary School. And it was people with lots of different outlooks on life. They all cared about their children. And when I take over the world, teachers every year are going to get the Nobel Peace Prize. So what you're sitting in right here is the place that it's all going to work out from. Just one second. For the truth, I have to wear the St. Carton crown. Because once I have this on, I can only tell the truth. Would I lie to any of you? Would I lie to any of
George. Oh, this brings back so many memories to me, living here during that time. My goodness. Now, the last speaker is Roberta Kirby, but we are looking for Ann Stelka. If she is here, Ann, come forward then. We want to squeeze you in. So come and speak to us. Let Ann introduce herself. Come on. I've not met her, but I've heard good things.
Well, I'm very nervous, so I had to write down every single word. In 1984, Carolyn Topanga, a teacher friend, interviewed for an opening at Topanga School. She called me that night and she said, "This is where you should be working. It's the perfect school for you." 5 months later, Carolyn called back to tell me that a second opening had come up. I was working in a large, all-black, inner-city school at the time, and although I loved the school and I found teaching there extremely rewarding, the freeway traffic and the anxiety of getting there on time in the mornings was wearing me down. At first, my inner-city principal refused to release me. At that time, you had to work 18 years in the inner city before you could apply for a transfer. I had been there for only 9 years. Finally, the principal said, "You've earned the right to go." I had taken on many extra responsibilities during my time at the school, and Topanga was my reward. My friend was right. This was the perfect school for me. I began here in February 1985. I immediately felt as if I'd come home. I'd grown up in rural England, and since qualifying as a teacher, I had worked in inner city schools throughout my career, in London, then Vancouver, and finally Los Angeles. To be back at a small country school was sheer heaven. But I did have a hard time adjusting to the skin color of the students. When I went home each night, I said to my husband, "The children are so white." For so long, I had worked with only black-skinned children, I had begun to think that that was the only kind of children there were. The skin color of the Topanga students came as quite a shock. I mean, I really thought they looked ill. I felt quite sorry for them. I retired for the first time 10 years ago in 1995, and what fun I had during those 10 years. I'll never forget the Christmas program extravaganzas with Principal Paula Benjamin in her bunny slippers. She would have worn those slippers if the president were coming to visit. And the Young Author Festivals were in full swing throughout the district. Every child wrote and bound a book and then shared their book with family and friends in a one-day Young Author Festival. Our dance festivals were quite an extravaganza too. In those days, I owned over 700 costumes that I'd made over the years, and boy, did we dance. What a splash of color the children made in their costumes from around the world. Sadly, those costumes were lost along with my home in the November '93 fire. I already knew what an incredible community this was with its theater, symphony orchestra, and art shows, and Topanga days, and bands with crazy names like the Grateful Dads. I had witnessed the outpouring of support whenever someone in the Topanga family was in need. But what the school community did for me after the fire was beyond imagination. In less than a week, I wasn't supposed to cry here, I took off the 3 sentences that made me cry here. Anyway, what the school community did for me after the fire was beyond imagination. In less than a week, I had everything I needed to begin my new after-the-fire life. As most of you have figured out, my 1995 retirement was only temporary. I found I couldn't stay away, and I've been here ever since. This school is home. Thank you.
Late than we usually do. Usually we stop right on the dot of 9, which is a special night. So the last speaker before Mr. Liam has a few words about the future of Topanga School is Blvd. Kirby, whom we all know and love.
Very patient. How wonderful. I am telling you what? Oh, I didn't know you all had it in you. It's so great. It's just great. You know, when Dee interviewed over the telephone, 2 different ones, and she did me, and she said, "How long have you been teaching?" And well, I don't really know. It just, it just came on, and I'm still here. But anyway, it was when gas was 24 cents and 9 tenths a gallon. And then it's when my salary, I had gone up to $31.95 a day. A day, $31. So I do remember that, and I know where I was, as you probably know where you were, when President Kennedy died, was assassinated. I remember the school I was in down in the valley. So it's been a while, and I've enjoyed every minute of it. And in those minutes that I didn't enjoy, I just turned my back and said, well, I've got another day. And the thing is, I'll mention just a few of the teachers that started here, and that was Grace Wiley, and that is Rosie's sister-in-law. And then there was Carol Marshburn, and there was, let's see, yes, Ruth Nesney, one of you born. Your brother was in her class for a while, and so is someone else that I just talked to tonight. I had to look up at all the kids, and I thought, where am I, because they're so tall. And, another one, I see our beautiful librarian here. When I first came, it was Bruce Slot. I think we still have her picture downstairs. And she was she wasn't like you, Mr. Russo. She had the 6th grade class, and boy, she had those kids towing them all the way. I mean, we were just boom. But anyway, now we have our dear one back here. And then there was Ruth Nesney and Helen Titus and Jane LaChapelle, when you knew her. And so now it was Jane LaChapelle, and she was a musician, she could play the piano, remember? And she was just a beautiful person. And those kids would just shine her shoes. She was loved so much to them. And she wore the high heels and the little hat. I guess I inherited some of her hats. So it was really wonderful. And hearing some of you students speak of these teachers just brings back so many memories. And you have got a memory. Oh my goodness, it was just marvelous. And so then those teachers all left pretty, because we really didn't have that much need for teachers in those days. I mean, they stayed, or else they had to retire or got married or had a baby, and you had to leave them. But some of the children I remember, there was Donald Day, and he was one that liked to play with fast-moving machines. And he liked to he'd talk about, draw, and race around with these cars. And now he is and in later years, he's a champion at the surfboard. So he is now teaching in Hawaii, professor there. And then I was remembering the Moose Boys, because they're our neighbors. And another one I remembered, I remember all of you, and I love every one of you. But there's one that Danny, he was pretty tough little hombre. And he just, as you said, everyone wanted to do their own thing, And he said one day the school was a little bit late. I'm glad you girls came up. I can talk to you too, because I love these kids. And so Danny says, Mrs. Kirby. I said, yes, sir. Yes, sir. He says, do you see these boots? Yes, sir, Danny, I see those boots. Well, they were made for walking.